Tommy Barrett of Limerick FC fame joins me for our coaching insight this week. Tommy, very welcome. Thank you. How are you getting on with COVID-19 lockdown?
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough working from home. It's tough. I'm expecting a couple of kids to walk in here now in a minute. On top of me. So it's it's difficult. I don't know how anyone really works from home. All the time. It's really tough. I don't think it'd be for me, to be fair.
Yeah, same as myself. Okay, Tommy, a lot of people obviously would know you, Limerick FC, a top level coach at a professional outfit. But how did you get there? How did Tommy Barrett become a coach? What was the pathway like for you?
Yeah, look, I suppose from I did my youth cert in 2007. I was still playing. I was always kind of interested. My father was coach. He's coached Morass United and that. He's a B-level coach, UFAB. For years, he's coached a lot of the schoolboys teams out there, and he coached Limerick under-20s and that as well. And I always enjoyed it. I felt I had some good coaches down through the years. Particularly when we went to Limerick. When I went professional, our League of Ireland would say, was part-time professional, obviously, as a player. And Noel O'Connor would have been a good coach. Mike Curley, Pat Scully, those lads. I would have looked at different aspects of that and saw how they managed things and how they coached, and was always kind of interested in coaching. But yeah, 2007 was the first time I kind of did it in my youth cert. I got a job with the FEI as development officer in 2008. So I was practically, full time at it. Even though a lot of that job isn't coaching, it's probably only 10% of it, but at least you're coaching every week and on a consistent basis. I've been coaching since 2008, and I just enjoyed the learning aspect of it. The different styles of coaching and the different styles of leadership and management. And went on. I completed my pro license there in 2018, so I left a gap between them as well. I think that's important too. But just generally interested in football and talking about it, and the tactical and the mental side, really. I'm really interested in that side of it, and proper mentality around players and coaching and leadership styles. So I suppose that's where my strong interest is in, really.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, actually. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was that, we have other sports in this country, hurling, Gaelic football, rugby in particular, analysed to the nth degree. We don't get a lot of that in soccer. It's a hugely technical sport, and obviously you were just mentioning it there about the mentality of it. What sets the good teams aside from the not so good teams, or what makes the champion teams different, do you think, from one team to the next?
If you look at football worldwide now, it's the best players, really, isn't it? And the most money. It's a money-driven game. It's money-oriented. Even in this country, we have Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers who are dominating because they have the funds for the better players, and they have the best structures and the best support structures around them. There is incidents where it doesn't happen, like in Leicester a few years ago in the Premier League, as we know, where it's unusual, and it was brilliant for them. And look, I suppose Dundalk a few years ago when Stephen Kenny took over, they didn't have a big, huge budget either, and he did great work there. But in the main, it's budget and money orientated, where you have the best support structures, the best players, and you have the best of everything, the best facilities, and you even have the mental side. You spoke about the mental side. You have usually the top players are the ones that have that, to have everything, as well as the technique and the technical and the tactical and the game awareness and the game management. They also have that drive and belief in themselves, which is massive for any top professional. They have to have that belief in themselves and that mentality to win. And the top pros in any sport will have that. I think that will get you places in any sport. That will get you to the top in any sport, and it'll keep you there as well if you have that mentality.
Yeah, something that a lot of the coaches on this have touched on, the innate dog in fellas, maybe that Massey Lawler used in one of our episodes. Talk to me then about philosophy, Tommy. If you were to take over a team in the morning that were of, let's say, an average standard or above average standard, good footballers all there, what football would you like them to play? What style? What would you want them to be like?
You see, people speak about philosophies on a regular basis, right? And I think in football it came from the likes of Pep Guardiola, where he can do what he wants because he has the budget to pick the best players, you know. But for someone like myself, you can't have a specific philosophy because you mightn't have that top level player where you want to play a flowing brand of football and a superb passing football, playing out from the back, playing through the thirds, all that type of stuff. So you have to be, and even in fairness to likes of Guardiola or those top coaches, they will adapt. They will, if they're being pressed high, they'll go direct. So I think philosophies are I think I'm not sure about it should even be spoken about. You know, you create a culture, fair enough, but a philosophy is it's a bit airy-fairy for me because it's always changing. The game is always changing. You know, you have to, as a coach and a manager, you have to do the best of what you have, and you have to change your style to suit that. And sometimes you might have to change it in a different game and use a different strategy for a different game. So you can't have an overarching philosophy. I think you have to be flexible, and you have to be continuously changing and looking to adapt. So, like if I have a team of players and I don't have wingers, you know, I'm not going to play a 4-4-2 with wingers. I'm going to, you know, or 4-3-3. I have to go and play a diamond system if I don't have wingers and I go fullbacks. You know, so it's constantly changing.
One thing maybe so that runs across all teams then is every team has to have the basics, and as you say, the better players have the better basics. What if you coach is watching this now and is coaching his local junior side, or coming up through the ranks, or trying to improve himself as a coach? What are the nailed on basics that are a given, like that you want every player to have walking in the door at an elite level?
The big thing at elite level is the culture that you create, you know. So first and foremost, they have to really want to be there, not just for the picture in the paper, or, you know, they have to be driven themselves. They have to look after themselves first and foremost. They have to be motivated properly to be there. You know, you want that. Athleticism is hugely important in the modern game. They have to be athletes. They have to be technically good footballers, tactically aware, intelligent footballers. You're looking for, you know, players that can adapt. They can adapt to different situations. There's a million different situations in the game, and they're not. You want, what you want is player led. Really, you know, it's spoken about a lot. And they can change, they can go out and do a job for you. You have the basics, you know, this is what we want to do, this is how we play. But can you adapt to situations? You know, you want that flexibility. You don't want, I think the day of the real authoritarian coach is gone. You know, certainly you have to be authoritative sometimes, but the real authoritarian schoolmaster, it doesn't really work in the modern game because there's so much flexibility and so many changes in modern sports that you have to have players that can change, you know, that can lead for you and change a certain situation as it occurs, you know. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's something you touched on a couple of times about adaptability in the best players if they're pressed and stuff. I was saying to half air before we came on, someone was asking me, how do you set up a team differently? So some games your teams are going to sit back away off of you because they're aware of the threats that you bring, and then maybe another team will press you, put pressure on you. Like, how do you set those teams up differently? Is it literally a case of analysing what the opposition are going to bring and getting the mentality and the tactics right for that week?
Yeah, look, I suppose if you're a team that's playing out, if my team is playing out from the back in a 4-3-3 and the other team knows that the opposition, you know, you have to work on that where you're not always looking to play out the back from the back because they're looking to press high. Like if someone presses you high, there has to be space somewhere. So what you want there is a good goalkeeper that can ping a ball 40, 50 yards out to the fullback who's on the halfway line, you know, because there has to be space somewhere. So if they're pressing that high, you gotta ping it to that. But you need the players for that. You need the high level players that can perform those actions all the time. So if someone drops off, you're looking to play a more patient game, obviously, because, you know, and you're looking to probe all the time and looking to move players. But everything has to be done with pace, you know, particularly in the final third. And the final third is the hardest part to get right, obviously, because it's the hardest thing to do is to score a goal. So, you know, it's easy coach or set up a team, but, you know, that's why strikers are so important. They're a dime a dozen, and people trying to get people who can score goals and put the ball in the back of the net and nice and calm doing it is the really difficult part of any managers and any coaches. Um, any coach's mentality going out on the pitch even to set up a team. If you know that your striker, if he gets two chances and scores one, you can go out and go, well, if we don't concede today, such and such is going to score for us. So you can have that attitude. But again, it depends. It all depends on the situation, the game, the structures, the support structures in the club, what league you're playing in. All those things matter, you know. And I don't mean to be sitting on the fence here, but it is so fluid and flexible, and I think you have to be that way.
You mentioned earlier in the conversation a lot of the good coaches you've played under, and they've obviously all added bits at the time, you know, the era of football that they may have coached in, because it does move so quickly. Have you taken stuff from everyone you've been under and gone, yeah, I like that, no, I don't like that, I'll use that when I'm a coach? Did you think like that when you were a player?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, you know, look, I suppose, you know, I had the privilege of working under some very good coaches and very underrated coaches as well. You know, the likes of Noel and Mike Curley and Pat Scully were really good. Like Noel would have been, you know, high on athleticism and fitness, and you know, he did very well from the players and the teams he had and a really low budget. You know, and probably didn't get the credit that he deserved. And looking back on it, you know, he was well structured, well organised. Yeah, I suppose, like, even when I went up, I was a late starter in League of Ireland. I was 23, 24, and in fairness to Noel, like he'd have a team like I didn't. I was probably never properly coached before that, and geez, I thought I was fit, you know, and I wasn't, you know, and like he got us really, really fit in the physical side of things with Dave Mahedy. You know, I think it was the fittest I was ever been throughout our career. You know, we used to do savage training out in UL. It was, you know, we do 2 hours training before we actually kick the ball, you know. So there was a lot of fitness training. Sorry. So from that aspect, you know, he was really, really good. And, you know, like, obviously, you know, the tactical and technical side of things as well. You know, like all those lads they all have, every one of them has this. Like a lot of people say, oh, he was a good coach, or but not a good manager, not particularly Noel, but I've heard that said about people, and you know, they would say it about any of the coaches that I've worked with. He might have been a good manager, but he wasn't a good coach. I think that's unfair. You know, people don't realise and they don't look at it and don't go into depth. All those lads that I would have worked with are all really good coaches, and really they could manage people as well. They just manage it in different ways, you know, and different styles, and show different leadership styles. So, you know, Mike Curley was a bit different. He was a bit quieter, but really tactically aware, really good, and the fitness side of things as well, the basic sides. Wanted to play probably a bit more football at the time, and was really, really good. You know, Pat Scully was probably, you know, a mix of both as well, tactically very, very aware as well, and he was further along in his career as well. You know, I watched Noel's team last year, and it's great that he's gone with the Kennedy Cup now with the LDSL, and they played fantastic football, you know, with the players that he had, and he had them super organised, and you know, you get all those things from those lads, and you know, the coaching courses that you go on as well, you're looking at how people do things. Like I was on my pro license with, like, Keith Andrews was on it, and Paul Osam, Jim Crawford, you know, I did the pro license with all those lads, Alan Reynolds. So you pick up a lot there with those lads along the way as well. But I would say we like went to Belgium to St. Trudian on a trip and watched their training sessions, and we went to Swansea. Paul Clements was there at the time, and where else did we go? Bristol Rovers, and the training sessions, not any different to what we're doing. The coaching, not anything different than what we're doing here. Not anything different that Noel O'Connor, Mike Curley, Pat Scully would have done. It's not rocket science, you know. They have better players, better facilities, and we spoke about it earlier, probably better support structures and more money, you know. So we're looking up to these coaches and managers as being gods and being, you know, fantastic. I think there's too much made out of coaches and managers these days, you know. it's all about the players. If you have the players and you have the right culture created within the club, you're going to be successful.
Something we've learned in the last number of weeks is sport has a vital role to play, but it's not the be all and end all. We've used words before like heroes and warriors and all this kind of stuff, and that's actually people that work on the front line in our health service. It's not sports stars, but sometimes we can get a bit carried away with the importance of sport. And one of the things that I suppose you would have seen front up is the pressure that comes with sport. And at the end of the day, when you're managing Limerick FC and Limerick FC don't win a game, yes, disappointing for everyone involved, disappointing for everyone that is vested in the club. But at the end of the day, it's a game of football. Do you look back on that now and kind of think, God, those stresses that were there at the time and all the negativity was on, how difficult was that for you, A, to do? And now that you look back on it, you realise, it's grand.
I think someone in my first 6 months had said to me, when we lost players and that, like there was an interview actually after a match and someone had said to me, oh, we're in crisis. I was like, well, even at that time, I was like, no, we're not in crisis. We had a homeless crisis in the country at that moment in time. We had, a drug epidemic. I see that daily when I'm working and people walking up and down the street and then walking around like zombies.
The crisis in sport is redefined now. It's not a crisis.
Yeah, but it's not. But it was never with me anyway, right? Because I would have said that from day one, and people would have said, that's deflection. But it's not. It's not. It's a sport. At the end of the day, it's a game of football, and it certainly pales in comparison to anything else. Like a crisis of people losing their jobs. That's a crisis. For those people in that family, and like I would have been very much now. Look, would it be more a crisis if it was my full-time job? Probably. But I would never have went full-time in this country, even as a player. No, something that might have been good enough, but if I was even, I'd be very reluctant to. And as a coach / manager, I wouldn't either because there's no football industry, so hopefully the new FEI can do something with that. And maybe in the future, if I'm, older and in my 50s probably possibly where I'm coming to the end of a mortgage or whatever, but certainly at this moment in time I wouldn't take a chance in going full time. And those lads are very brave to do that, and more power to them, but I'd be certainly a bit more cautious in doing that because the lack of an industry, but it's certainly not a crisis if I was probably full time maybe.
Last one for me then, Tommy. The tradition of football in Limerick, we're all looking back, getting nostalgic now, looking back at the time we played Real Madrid and we had Man City and Chelsea over here and friendlies, all that. Look, the world moves on, but let's give us, I suppose, an idea of what the talent is like here. We've sent people abroad, lads have gone on, they've been massive exports. If the FAI, as you say, did things right, like, could we soon see, or will we soon see an Ireland international from Limerick like we do in other sports all the time? There is talent here, I'm sure.
There is, Dan, and you're trying to get me in trouble now, aren't you?
No, I'm straight up question. Like, the talent is here if nurtured correctly. It's not anyone else's fault per se, but
yeah, is it? We haven't had a senior international. Can you remember the last senior international we had? No,
before my time.
Yeah, this 40 years.
I'll hang on to Steve Finnan for a while.
Yeah, well, look, yeah. I think a lot of people are hanging on to him, but that probably, like I said already, counties like Laois and Wexford and, non-soccer counties, even like Galway produced 5 or 6 in the last 40 years, and we haven't, so that points to something being wrong, so junior soccer, as we know, is very strong. It's really good, and I played a lot of junior soccer myself, and I'm grateful for it. And I like junior soccer, and I go and watch junior soccer games regularly. But in the city, we definitely need to get our house in order. And I think I said it in the past. We call ourselves Sporting Limerick, and we are very sporting, but we just don't. The rugby and the hurlers have got it right in the last number of years. Particularly rugby has been successful over a long period of time, to be fair. And even now, even if they're not as successful as they have been, it's still like, they still. I think this year was Munster's first year not making a knockout. Was it in Europe?
Yeah,
like that's in itself, shows how successful they have been. So that's fantastic, and that's at elite level. But we haven't in Limerick, and that's a Munster. That's Munster wide. How many Limerick City players are actually on the Munster team? There's not too many I can think of. Obviously you have the two main ones in Earls and oh God, the scrum half from Patrick, Conor Murray. Yeah, he must get me there for a sec. But there are two obvious ones. And he's Patrick's well even. But even Limerick City itself, we don't produce too many top class elite athletes. Is part of it that everyone plays, an amount of sports and it's participative all the time, and there's too many sports being played and not focusing on specifics maybe at 14, 15 years of age. And, you have lads playing junior soccer, junior rugby, senior rugby, junior soccer, GA, whatever. I don't know. But just from a soccer point of view, I think we need to get it better and we need to get it right. We need to, train up coaches to coach kids not to play junior soccer, and certainly the ones that are don't make it to the next level play junior soccer, and that's brilliant. But we should be coaching players and looking to get them to play League of Ireland in England, play for Ireland, not play for their local club. We should be looking at, he's my player, he's not your player. He's himself. We want to make him the best he can be, and then say, but I had a part in that, as making him a top level player. Our lads over in England, like even the last 20 odd years, we haven't had too many professionals coming out of Limerick. I think Brian O'Callaghan went to England, Limerick City, Willie Boland, I can't name anyone. Even League of Ireland playing outside of Limerick professionally. Bobby Ryan was probably the one playing League of Ireland. And the county lads, they seem to be producing a few in the last number of years, all right, with Paddy O'Connor gone over, Anthony Ford and McCrory from Croom as well. So out the county, they're even getting players across to England, and Tipperary there now with Barry Coffey and that. But we haven't really, we've got a few lads across that have come back, and there's a few playing League of Ireland, which is brilliant. Since the League of Ireland came in, the League of Ireland underage pathway, and I think that's an improvement as players. Not even about coaching and being better managed, because certainly, there's some fantastic coaches at schoolboys and junior clubs. But if you're playing against better players all the time, you're going to become a better player. So, if players are playing League of Ireland and they're playing against the Shamrock Rovers or the Cork City, they're playing against better players on a regular basis, week in, week out, that's going to improve them. So I think we have to look at where we're at from a soccer point of view and get our house in order, have regular, a school of excellence. The hurling have it, the rugby have it, the FEI have an emerging talent program, but it's only up to under 12s or 13s now, I think. It's even going a bit younger as far as I know. We don't have a real centre of, a soccer centre as such. The schoolboys, the LDSL don't have a training ground. They don't have pitches to play on. The LDMC have a fantastic venue in Jackman Park, but again, don't have a soccer-specific training centre. And I know there's UL is there, but again, that's cost and rugby is prominent out there as well, and GA as well. So I think we need to take a good look at soccer in the region and leave the egos out of the room and bang our heads together and look to produce players to play at the highest level and play for the country. I don't know when that's going to happen, but hopefully it will happen because we need it.
Yeah, no, obviously. Last one for me, Tommy. Quick, even a one-liner. If someone young is watching this and is thinking about being a football coach, what advice would you give them as they start off on the journey to becoming maybe a League of Ireland coach in the future?
I think take your time, particularly going through your coaching badges, your coaching journey. I would have left, 3 years before every course I've done. Excuse me. The youth cert I did in 2007. I think I did my B in 2010. 2008, 2013, and my pro license 2018. So, you know, I left that 3 to 5 year gap all the time because you're continuously working and learning. And the fact that there's no real full time in this country, really, you know, I was part time, and you know, you're out 3 nights a week, and even that now, I don't think, you know, I haven't done, you know, a massive amount of code. If I was at a professional level, you're doing 10,000 hours. You know, we speak about that 10,000 hours. Mike McCarthy speaks about it a lot. About the players doing 10,000 hours, and we all speak about it, that to become an elite player you have to do 10,000 hours, and Mike would speak about that regularly. He's done a bit around sports psychology now, where he's in the FEI since 2008, and he's only doing these 10,000 hours now. So as a coach and as a manager, I probably haven't even reached 10,000 hours now, and you know, even I haven't coached in a few months now, and I know if I go back on a pitch, I'm rusty, you know. But the most important thing is not to rush, you know, and get the hours in. No matter where you get them in, because you know, and vary your coaching, you know, because you learn something. Like I would have coached from under, you know, from 3 to 5 year olds up to senior men. So, you know, you learn more sometimes coaching kids, and that's the hardest thing to do. People always want to look and go to the top straight away and go to the highest they can, which is great. It's great to be ambitious. But, you know, you have to put in the hours, and you have to coach the kids, because they're more difficult. And our best coaches should be coaching underage players, you know, because it's the hardest part to do. But it certainly can be the most rewarding as well. So don't be in a rush, particularly if you're a young coach, and don't just, you know, go and get a badge or, you know, a cert just for the sake of it, because it's easy to get those and you think, oh yeah, I'm a coach now. But you're not, because, you know, you're always learning, and there's always something that's going to throw you. You know, it's something that's going to, you say, well, I don't know that. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing. You know, if I don't know something, and there's a new trend emerging, or there's something that you don't know what you don't know it. You're learning. And, you know, I think that's the biggest thing, you know, because a young coach, I see some very good young coaches now, but like, they're like, what around, I have an A license. Great. But, you know, are you using it? Are you using it properly and in the proper way? And is it about the players, you know, and not about yourself? Because that's the most important thing, because you're not gonna win a game if the players think it's about yourself, you know.
Well, I think that's a brilliant line to leave it on. As you mentioned, it is all about the players. And thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Didn't keep you too long. And hopefully, Tommy Barrett, we'll see you back on the sideline soon enough when this is all over.
Hopefully, Dan.
Cheers.
Take care.